Welcome back for another episode of Being Intentional. This is episode 2. Again, my name is LaFrederick Burns. I'm your host on this particular podcast. And today we're going to get into what September is recognized as. So, many organizations recognize September as National Suicide Prevention Month. And I'm going to share my story, so let's get into it. Okay, so like many people in the African American community, I've suffered with depression and anxiety for years, pretty much dating back as far as I can remember. I've had some form of depression or anxiety at one time or another. And I remember being younger and, making idle threats about committing suicide, about taking my life. But I was always scared of what the outcome would be. Not just for myself, but for those that I was leaving behind. So when I was younger, I never followed through on any of those threats. However, at the age of 26, things just finally came to a head, and I did it. Yeah. It took me a long time to talk about it. This is actually the first time I've ever publicly talked about it. This was back in April of 2007. And there was just so many things that I was going through at that particular time. I was married at the time to a woman that I've always said since we've divorced, I say that she was more in love with the idea of marriage than who she was actually marrying. We had kind of a whirlwind relationship. We started dating in May. We were engaged 2 or 3 weeks later in June, and by December 31st, 2004, we were married. We were young. We were 22 when we started dating, turned 23 shortly after. We were 23 when we started dating, and we turned 24 shortly thereafter. We married. So, and neither one of us had really had any real experience in a relationship. But yeah, we married. And like I said, I feel like she was more in love with the idea of marriage and what came with marriage than she ever was with me. She'll never admit that, and I don't expect her to. But in 2007, by 2007 we had several heated conversations, because she was one that felt like she should never have to work. And my thing is, and I'm not going to get into all the details of our marriage, but my thing was, if we don't have any children at home, why are you sitting at home all day? And if you are going to sit at home, at least carry out the duties of the housewife. There's no reason that I should have been working full-time, in school full-time, and still have to come home on the bus at night and make sure my clothes are ready for work the next day, and fix me something to eat that night, and make sure I had lunch ready the next day. And I was raised to not count on a woman to do those things for me. So, I didn't really mind it, but at the same time, she saw how taxing it was on me, and she continued to do nothing about it. So that was one source of stress that I was really going through, because at that time that I attempted to take my life, she had lost another job, and seemingly on purpose. We had just buried her grandfather. I was under stress on my job, being that I was in sales. I had switched from customer service to sales, and when I did so, it was wintertime. It was right before Thanksgiving. So our sales quotas we were at a brand new store for this company. So our quotas were very low. So we nailed our quotas for November, and we doubled our quotas for December. And then we all know that that's prime shopping time for everyone. And then for January, they jacked our quotas up. So whatever our quotas was in December, they expected us to do double in January, when they know January, spending goes down everywhere. Spending goes down because people are now feeling the effects of the holidays, and they are trying to save some money. So for the month of January, you had to hit 50% of your quota in order to even get paid. And I was at like 45%. So I didn't get my sales commissions that month. I only got my base pay, which was nothing. So I was barely able to make bills. And she knew this. And she seemingly lost her job on purpose. So it added another layer of stress. Not to mention there was a number of rumors and a lot of chatter going around both sides of the family that just completely weighed on me, completely stressed me out. I was in a car accident in the beginning of March, and we was at this church at this particular time. I had the car accident on my way to work that Friday morning, and I stayed at work all day. My car wasn't totaled. It was a little banged up or whatever, but the other car took more damage than mine. And I just had a complete anxiety attack at work. And I ended up taking a long way home just to avoid the freeway that night. And when I woke up on Saturday morning, my body was just so sore and so tense that I told my wife, hey, I'm not going to go to the church for prayer service this morning because I got to be at work at noon. So I'm just going to sleep in and let my body rest some more. My family, knowing that I was in a car accident, you would think they all would understand that. But at the time, me, my wife, my mother, and my younger sister was all attending this one church that was out of this pastor's home. And she took that as a perfect opportunity to attack me. I was completely wrong for not coming to church that morning. Regardless of what I was going through physically and mentally, her priority was to have me in church that morning. And she didn't understand that, that's just not where my head was at that time. And she had my wife call me, and they had me on speakerphone, and they literally attacked me behind not being in church that morning. So just all of that stress on me. I remember the exact date. It was April 17th, 2007. Again, another stressful day at work. I come home. Like I said, I was recovering from the financial impacts of not being paid my quota for January. So we barely had any groceries in our house. And we scrounged up what we could to eat. And I'm trying to eat or whatever. My wife get a phone call, and the person that she's talking to on the other end, I can hear that they're just attacking me. And they're saying all this negative stuff about me. And my wife does nothing to shut it down. She don't even try to say, hey, let's have this conversation at a different time because he's right here, or none of that. She just let it go. And again, I'm just sharing my story. I'm not looking for my ex-wife. If you're listening to this, I'm not looking for your response. I'm just sharing what I felt at that time, and helping people understand what led me to do what I did. Again, this is not a personal attack on anyone. This is me sharing my story. So while she was on the phone with him, she left the room, went to the bathroom, continued the conversation. I couldn't hear everything that was being said, but I can hear the laughing and giggling, and it just drove me over the top. So I had a brand new bottle of Excedrin I had just picked up at Walmart. I slammed the whole bottle. It was a 24 count bottle. I slammed it and told her, I said, since you want to laugh and giggle about something, you want to run and tell our business to other people, tell them this. Slammed the empty bottle on the counter and went to bed. Now, I will say that she allowed God to use her. And she said, you're not going to die on my watch. And I don't know, I'm not going to speak for her. I don't know what else could have motivated her to do what she did. But she told me, you're not going to die on my watch. Either I'm going to call 911 or you're going to get in this car and go to the hospital. So reluctantly, I eventually got up out the bed, got dressed, and went and got in the car. And the next 24 hours was very rough for me. I was, she called my family and told them what happened, called her family, and called our pastors at the time. And they all came out to the hospital. Those that they would allow come back to see me came back or whatever. But most really was, if my memory is correct, it was really only her that came back. Everybody else had to stay out in the waiting room. And they transferred me from the local ER out to the mental health ward at another hospital because my insurance wouldn't allow them to take me to the county mental health facility. And that was one of the most degrading experiences I've ever had. The way they cavity search you and make sure you don't have anything in your private areas. They strip you of your laces. They strip you of any personal communication devices, and then they put you in this room that to me resembles a jail cell. I mean, with the concrete bed and the toilet in the room. It was pretty rough. But I sat in that room all day, and I ended up having another major anxiety attack right there in the hospital. And the platform I'm currently using to record my podcast only allows you 16 minutes to record an episode. So my time is almost near. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up for this episode, and I'm going to continue in the next episode and talk to you more about my experience in the local ER as well as at the mental ward and the work that I had to do afterwards. So this might be a multi-part episode as far as my experience with suicide. Don't forget to follow me on all my social media. And if you have any questions, concerns about anything that you heard in this particular episode, please feel free to contact me privately and I will address them in a future episode. Go ahead and sign out. This is your boy, LaFrederick Burns, and this has been an episode of Being Intentional.